Great. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and thanks to Vivi for kicking us off. We're so happy to have you here today and to join you for our launch. So we are Empowered Phu Nu, and Phu Nu means Vietnamese, woman in Vietnamese. And we first met at the United Vietnamese Students Association in Ontario's Leadership Summit back in 2018. It is now referred to as UVSA Eastern Canada. And there we discussed about dreaming of creating a space where Vietnamese women could share their stories and reclaim their cultural identities through the arts. So we are comprised of myself, Michelle, Linda Bui, and Julia Huynh. And just to briefly introduce ourselves, I am a researcher at Toronto Metropolitan University. Some of you might remember it formerly as Ryerson University. And I'll pass it over to Julia.
Xin chào tất cả. Hi everyone, my name is Julia and my pronouns are she, her. I am second generation Vietnamese Canadian and I am a practicing artist and community archivist. And I'm so happy to have you join us today, and I'll pass it over to Linda.
Hi everybody, it is so great to see so many people online today. I'm Linda, I use she, her pronouns, and I'm second generation Vietnamese Canadian. Outside of being a co-facilitator with EPN, I also organize with the Girls Empowerment Movement and work in public policy and higher education. And it's wonderful to see you all. I think we can flip this. Oh, thanks, Vivi. So our Empowering Phu Nu Photo Voice project received funding in 2021 from Artreach Toronto, a funding program designed to support youth arts initiatives in Toronto and also foster youth engagement and provide high quality arts opportunities. So through our project, EPN really wanted to provide Vietnamese young women in Toronto access to a community, a space, and opportunity to gain skills in photography and storytelling. Secondly, we wanted youth to learn from one another in an intimate cohort setting to be able to develop trusts and connections. And finally, we wanted everyone to be able to work collectively towards some sort of final reflection product to reflect on the project as a whole, but to also walk away with something tangible for their participation. So over the past several months, we met over Zoom to share our stories, and we're able to include some special guest speakers of Vietnamese background to chat with us about a range of topics like culture, identity, gender, community leadership, as well as their experiences in the arts. And for our final product, the group not only landed on a photo book, but also explored videography and voice work, which you'll see a bit later tonight. And I'll throw it back to Julia.
So our project is rooted in Photo Voice, which is a participatory research action method that empowers others and can enable social change through photography. And it does this by allowing communities to tell the stories that they want and to be seen in the way that they want to be seen by taking back the power of the camera. So over the course of 6 months, as Linda has mentioned, we've been meeting virtually and we've trained the cohort in Photo Voice, discussed the very basics of photography, and really focused our conversations on ethics and informed consent. And this was really important to challenge the ways that photography and the camera have often been used as tools against marginalized communities. So to creatively better understand ourselves and our cultural and gendered identities, we responded and discussed the following prompts. How would you portray yourself at this moment in time? What does being Vietnamese mean to you in relation to your gendered identity? What does "the" mean to you? What are your dream futures? And finally, we asked the final prompt of how would you portray yourself now at the end of the project? So I'll pass it back to the cohort to introduce themselves and share their stories with you today.
So about the cohort. Hi everyone, my name is Vivi and I'm a second generation Vietnamese Chinese in Toronto, Ontario. And my current background is politics, policy, and law. And I'm also a proud mental health advocate. And I love to lift heavy things. So my experience with the cohort has just been incredible. And because I'm first, I get to use all of the cliches, including this has been life-changing. I couldn't have imagined doing this with anybody else. And I'll remember this for the rest of my life. And although they're very cliche, they're completely true and embody my entire experience with the project. I wasn't really sure what I was getting into when I first applied, although I knew that I really wanted to explore my artistic and creative side a little bit more. But our discussions and the feeling of being really seen and heard, and just having the same experiences as others that have the same cultural background as you made me really feel seen for the first time. And it really opened my eyes to the fact that I really should dig deeper into my heritage. But despite this revelation, I've already felt closer to my heritage just because of the big topics that we've discussed, including intergenerational trauma, what it means to be the hope for your family, and just the pressures of being an Asian woman. So while the EPN Photo Voice project was photo-based, the conversations that these photos sparked led to many light bulb moments for me and very introspective moments. And it's kind of like seeing myself in a mirror at a different angle than I have before. And like my cliches, a photo is worth 1,000 words. And I'm so glad that I got to immerse myself in an array of many magical photos and the words that came with them, and that I'm now leaving with several new friends. So I'll pass it on now to my cohort co-member and new friend, Jen.
Thanks, Vivi. Hi, everyone. My name is Jen, and I'm second generation Vietnamese Canadian. My background is in community work, communications, and psychology. Currently, I'm lead facilitator for a nonprofit organization working with young children. I'm also a community and social services worker for another nonprofit that is currently building a community home for Vietnamese elders. In September, I will be pursuing a master's education in counseling psychology, which I'm really excited about. Aside from my work, I love to learn about culture, I love traveling, I love adventure, and I love trying new things. Being a part of the Empowered Fluently Photo Voice project has really opened my eyes to a community that I've never really had growing up. I think this group truly embodies how different we can be, yet so similar in our experiences. And I think it's truly empowering to see how we've connected in this way. And I'm going to pass it on now to Monica.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everyone. My name is Monica Lay, and I'm an illustrator, designer, and human rights activist. My academic background is in equity studies with a focus on disability studies at the University of Toronto, but currently I am running a freelance design business as well as an online shop selling prints and things. And my hope is to create an intersection between art and equity, educating people on social issues and connecting them to accessible resources through my design work. Being a part of this EPN collective project has been so inspiring and so motivating for me. Growing up, I didn't have a lot of, I guess, Vietnamese community members around me. Aside from my immediate family and relatives, I didn't know a lot of Vietnamese people. So I feel like being a part of this project and getting to know all these wonderful women has been so empowering and so special, because I feel like there's parts of my identity I really felt have been seen and have been filled in like never before. So I'm really grateful to do this project together with everyone and share it with all of you.
Unfortunately, Anna and Linda couldn't join us tonight, but you will be hearing their photos in the video coming up shortly. So now we're going to jump into discussing our individual photos. And this is the photo that I chose to present. And it's from our Thut prompt, which was, what does Thut mean to you? And for those who aren't aware, Thut is Vietnamese New Year. So among the numerous traditions associated with Thut, from the dishes steeped in familial memories to the glow and the scent of incense, one of the things that really stood out to me about Thut was an experience that I think everybody has gone through, which was the informal quote unquote tradition of moms safekeeping the red pockets, also known as lì xì. So amidst the celebrations and the parties, moms or parents would promise to keep our lì xì safe and give it back to us later, only for us to discover that we never actually got them back again. So as an adult, I really do admire the finesse and chuckle at what seems to be a widely shared experience. And I cannot wait to include my own children in this quote unquote tradition. So in the photo, I tried to emulate the warmth that I feel during Thut. So I'm using a lot of warm tone colors. And I also included 2 lì xìs poking out of a momish bag and 2 clementines for more visual appeal, but also because clementines are a Thut staple. I'm now going to pass it on to Jen to present her photo.
Thanks, Vivi. So the prompt for this photo was, what are your dream futures? And I specifically chose this picture for this prompt because what I want for myself or my future self is balance. And mountains have kind of always represented that for me. So they are very beautiful to look at, but if you go to hike them, they are tough and they're just total beasts. And in this picture in particular, you have a feeling of peace and calmness just because of the water and its connection to the horizon, to the mountains. And I had to do a little bit of reflection on what I would like for my dream future. And what I noticed is a pattern in my life that brings me the most joy has been the balance between discomfort and comfort. And I believe there's real growth when you surrender to and even sometimes embrace the discomfort of your experiences. And my dream future is to commit to a balanced life of unpredictability and challenges while also enjoying the peace and joy, or enjoying the peace and joy that comes with those challenges. And as a Vietnamese diaspora woman, it can be really painful and uncomfortable to unlearn stereotypes and break cycles, and especially if they've been hardwired into our beings. And I believe that the discomfort of going through that process is just as important as what you become when it passes. And now I will pass it along to Monica.
Thanks, Jen. So for this prompt, the question was, what does being Vietnamese mean to you in relation to your gendered identity? So when thinking about this prompt, I really thought about, when did I ever think about my intersectional identity of being both Vietnamese and a woman? So it brings me back to this time of being 13 years old, visiting Vietnam for the first time for a relative's wedding. This is a photo of me and my family, and I did this collage style to kind of represent the sort of internal conflict I had with the expectations of being a Vietnamese woman and also who I was truly. As we were getting ready for this wedding, I noticed all my sisters, doing their hair, putting on makeup, really putting a time and attention to their outfits and things like that. And it only took me a couple minutes to get ready because I just didn't care as much. And I remember feeling a little bit confused and uncomfortable about why don't I like makeup? Why don't I care as much or want to put as much effort into the way that I look? And it was a lot of pressure on both externally and what I was hearing in social media and society, as well as internally about who do I want to be, who do I want to present. Is makeup something that I enjoy? Is it something that I truly want? Or do I feel like I need to put things on and do certain things a certain way because that's what other people are doing or that's what's expected of me? And as an Asian woman, it's so difficult to feel like we're not being fetishized and sexualized in media. So I'm constantly having this battle even today about what does it mean to be a Vietnamese woman in my eyes and how do I define that for myself? So this photo is really representing the sort of acceptance of beauty, no matter how you show up in the world, no matter what gender, no matter what culture, that we're all beautiful in our own way and we get to define what that means and what that looks like. Great, thank you. All right, so I would like to talk a little bit about the book and the creation and the design process behind it. So the front and back cover were designed by Anna, who isn't here today. And the illustrations and the internal pages of the book were designed by myself. Throughout this process, it was truly blood, sweat, and tears that was put into this by the whole team. We worked really hard to make sure everything was perfect down to like the spacing, making sure the spelling was correct, the Vietnamese translations were as correct as we possibly could make them. And it was truly a labor of love. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but these physical copies of our book are going to be able to pre-order. So we'll talk about that later. All right, and we are going to be showing our video premiere. Linda, who is not here, has recorded a little message, so we're just gonna let her introduce the video.
Hi everyone, I'm Linda Pham and I'm one of the cohort participants for Empowered FUNU. I'm sad I couldn't be here for the event launch today, but I'm happy to be introducing the video segment of this event. I can't tell you enough in words how meaningful and how impactful this experience has been. And it's really hard to understand when we're throwing words at you to say that this experience is amazing and life-changing if you haven't gone through the experience yourself. So my attempt when I was creating this video was that I wanted you to understand what these experiences that we were bonding over and to show the stories, to showcase the pictures that we used and see the context behind it all. And that finally these words that we were saying are so true and so genuine. So I hope that when you're watching this, you'll hear these words in the beginning, and these words are lived and common experiences amongst Vietnamese women, and that you're thinking, wow, I feel so connected because someone else knows what I've gone through, and that you come out with a better understanding and a deeper appreciation for Photo Voice, and that finally you can see the genuine bond that we've created. And I'm honestly so happy to find such an empathetic group of women and that they're so smart and so strong and so talented. And I have a strong belief that these ladies will become my lifelong friends. And I want that for everyone too. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and a big thanks for everyone for being here today and supporting this initiative.
Third culture kid.
Resilience.
Growing up in low-income neighborhoods.
Not always fitting in anywhere.
Challenges talking about mental health.
Fetishization.
Imposter syndrome.
Limits being ladylike.
Stereotypes and stigmas.
Pressure to give parents the life they want for us.
Our culture.
Our gender.
Need for leadership.
Representation.
Reclaim our identity.
The daughters of diaspora.
Through photos.
Storytelling.
Photo Voice.
Photo Voice.
Photo Voice.
What is Photo Voice? Photo Voice is a community-based participatory research action method developed by Carolyn Wang and Mary Ann Burris. It's also described as ethical photography for social change. One of its goals is to empower people to document and tell their community's own stories by putting the camera directly in their hands.
Using Photo Voice, we share our experiences as Vietnamese women through the lens of daughters of the diaspora and identify themes and issues that we all face as a marginalized group.
Together, we build community and amplify our voices.
When we first applied for this grant, we knew we wanted to create a space where Vietnamese women could connect and share their stories, but even we didn't realize how important this community we created would become during the last 2 years, amidst a pandemic and while hearing about increasing reports of anti-Asian racism, most of which were targeted against Asian women.
Vietnamese women are often burdened to carry cultural traditions and values. It can be challenging to reserve the time for self-reflection, creativity, and community healing.
Taking photos, documenting aspects of our lives personally, and reflecting on societal notions or expectations that affected us was enlightening.
Through these themes, we were asked to take photos or showcase what we thought fit into the theme and present it to the group. We talked about our self-portraits, past and present, being Vietnamese, and what that meant to our gendered identity, and some of our dream futures. Here are some of our stories.
When asked, what is my dream future? I shared this photo of mountains. Mountains have challenged me physically and mentally, experiences that have always brought me joy.
Art to me, reminiscent of a door, as if I'm finally stepping into a realm where I'm confident in not only myself as a woman, but starting to truly, really, and fully embrace the womanhood around me.
The perseverance, survival, hopes, and dreams of my family and ancestors have allowed me to have the privilege to dream, to shed layers of intergenerational trauma, and to live in the peace and safety that they came all the way here for. So, I'll dream of calm ocean waves instead of the hard ones they had to travel through.
I dream of realizing my inner child's dreams, the dreams of my ancestors, the dreams of my communities. I dream of standing on the mountaintops, soaking in the silence, the cool air, and warmth of the sun as it says hello while it rises. Knowing that the steps I've taken to get there have been filled with love, care, acceptance, strength, and contentment.
They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but with Photo Voice, a photo is worth 1,000 experiences, 1,000 ideas, and 1,000 emotions. Whenever I think about experiences, ideas, and emotions, I think about where I came from. I came from a Vietnamese immigrant family who resides from the flourishing community of Jane and Finch. Stigmatized and vandalized by stereotypes and systematic disadvantages, my community has continuously fought to provide safe spaces for underserved community members. That is my dream. That is my future. As a creative who has studied education and marketing, my dream future is to build a studio space for POC creatives and clients to service in marketing, branding, design, photography, videography, and more. As a previous teacher in TDSB, educating and protecting marginalized youth has been one of my deepest passions. Being able to teach and support youth from Jane and Finch reaffirms how much representation and accessibility matters. I can't express enough what building a one-stop shop, multi-medium art service would mean to my community. Jane and Finch is filled with a plethora of talent and stories to tell, which is why so much of my work revolves around the art of storytelling and supporting the purposes of diverse businesses. My dream is to build, teach, and work with like-minded community members, to give voice to our shared experiences, and to build our stories and opportunities together.
So there's this photo of me in a dress on a motorcycle, and when we were asked to explain how this relates to our gendered identity, I thought it was a good dichotomy to show the balance and the synergy that masculine and feminine traits could have. There's a side to me that is quite traditional, and I do embrace feminine traits, being nurturing, being caring, and there are times where I am quiet, but there are also times where I can be loud and outspoken. And growing up in particular, I was really, really tomboyish. I loved playing sports. I would come back with ripped jeans and scratches and bruises, and I really wanted to do martial arts, and I was really disappointed when my parents wouldn't let me. One thing that really stood out was when I wanted to pursue further education, my mom asked why. That's something a man should do. And I'm like, this is the 21st century. I can make my own money. I can start my own company. I can be a mom. I can do it all. Why is it that it's something a man should do? I think shedding light to these expectations really helps drive the conversation, because at the end of the day, we have to recognize intersectionality. Humans are so complex. There's so many different layers and things that make us who we are. So, you know what? I can be tough and resilient and strong and powerful, but at the same time, I can be sweet and nurturing and caring all at once. I'm still very, very proud of my Vietnamese heritage and proud to be a woman.
Throughout this process, I learned the importance of embracing my identity and culture. Being surrounded by strong Vietnamese women who had similar experiences as I was so validating and comforting. Before this project, I lacked the connection to community and my roots. I didn't know there was mentors and role models out there that looked like me.
Participating in Empowered FUNU means connecting with my community. It means sharing and celebrating our similar and different experiences as Vietnamese women.
Participating in this project was so meaningful for me because I could connect with others despite not being able to meet them in person. It made me feel understood and inspired. Being a part of this space reminded me of the power of healing and dreaming both as an individual and a collective. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to strengthen our teamwork as coordinators and to also get to know each participant on a deeper level. Most of all, I'm proud of the sisterly bond we developed, and I'm really comforted to know that these relationships will only continue to grow beyond this project.
I am so honored to be a co-facilitator of this project and also be invited to be a participant as well. I was looking forward to all of our early Saturday morning sessions because I loved all of our conversations, how personal and vulnerable and open and honest everyone was, and that really spoke to me that, wow, this is it. This is a space and we cultivated it, and I'm so happy that not only friendships came out of it and sisterhood came out of it, and that's just something that is really beautiful and I hold very near and dear to my heart. I got to witness the growth of the entire cohort since we first met in fall 2021 up until now, and I also got to witness the amazing growth and strength of my co-collaborators, and even to put the cherry on top of participating in this project, like, I learned so much about myself throughout. I am so thankful for this space, and it really goes to show just how important and meaningful projects like these are, and I hope that other communities can do that too.
Okay, I think we're just slowly all getting back. To be honest, that was like my first time seeing it in whole, so I was crying behind the camera screen. Yeah, words can't describe what I'm feeling, but thank you all for still sticking around. As we mentioned earlier, we would love if you had any questions for the cohort to kind of pop it in the chat. We'll take a moment, you know, as you're gathering, if there's anything you want to ask at all, this is the space for that. I'm seeing a lot of words of support and encouragement. Thank you so much to Ali. You're incredible too. Tao is asking, have your parents seen your work? So I will toss it to Vivi first maybe, and then we could just go around.
My parents have not seen it yet, and the only reason for that is I'm just waiting to present them the photo book in whole and then have them kind of experience that. And I think that would be really special just to have something tangible. I think that would really resonate with them more. My parents are a little not tech savvy, so I think we'll go this route. I'll pass it on to Jen.
I have personally given my mom my copy of the book, but she's still going through it. So she hasn't really given me her thoughts. What about you, Monica?
For me, at the current moment, I believe my mom and dad should be watching currently this launch. I have spoken about it and mentioned that I'm part of this arts collective, kind of give them a vague explanation about it, but I don't think they totally know what we are doing. So I hope to explain it more to them when I show them the book.
We have another question from Chantel. Would love to ask how this has shifted the ways y'all have began to interact with your personal relationships and local communities.
It's a great question. Personally, in my personal relationships, I think it has really impacted my familial ones more than anything. Prior to this project, I kind of wasn't really into looking back into my Vietnamese heritage. I just didn't really, it wasn't that I didn't see the point, but I felt like everybody in Canada kind of had a hyphenated identity, and I just kind of thought that was that. And it wasn't until this project until I actually looked and sat down and reflected on what it actually meant to be a Vietnamese woman and how this impacts my relationship. So going forward, I just have a lot more understanding of the things that my parents have gone through, the people in my life, the older people, my uncles, my aunts, just through the conversations that we've had, intergenerational trauma and just really big topics. So it honestly has really impacted my personal relationships. And this is probably the first time that I actually feel like I have a Vietnamese community. I never did before this project, and I'm learning to navigate it now, but it's only been ups from when we started. So I'll pass it to Jen now.
That is a really good question. I think through this project, I've felt similar to Vivi, like a sense of community, but also I've felt like through my personal relationships, like with my family, my parents, I've been kind of feeling more validated in some of the feelings I have, but also feeling more empowered than ever to kind of figure out ways to connect with them better and to dig deep into what their experiences like were as a child and in Vietnam. And then in terms of like local communities, I think it's really made me more curious about what the experiences of other diaspora folks are like, and also just more curious about the Vietnamese community and what kind of things that we can work on to make sure that like our community is living like a quality life. And now I'll pass it on to Monica.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of my personal relationships, I definitely feel like I am understanding my parents and my family a lot more. Growing up, I always knew that, you know, my parents were refugees and they came to Canada when they were pretty young. But I guess I never truly understood the full scope of that, and I still don't, but I'm definitely learning. I'm definitely understanding more about the hardships that they went through, the sort of, you know, lingering pain that probably still exists in the back of their head, and the stories that came out of it that I hope to preserve. So I definitely think it has made me be a lot more introspective about my culture and my history and my family's history. And in terms of community, I definitely feel like I'm more engaged in Vietnamese culture and the community. Just because I wasn't really raised around a lot of Vietnamese folk, I didn't ever have the, I guess, prompt or need or want to really engage. So this has really opened up a lot of doors of being around people who are like me, but also, you know, sharing more with other communities about my culture now that I can speak more to it.
Great, thanks, Monica, and thanks for everyone sharing your questions in the chat. Please keep sending them in. The next question, Wan Ho in the chat was our translator for the photo book, so we'd like to extend a deep thanks to her for all of her help as well. And her question for the cohort is, do you plan on doing a second photo book in the future? And a follow-up question is, what do you think is the most difficult challenge for you in finishing this project? And could you share like a valuable moment that you had during the process?
Well, I hope to speak for everyone when I say that we hope to do a second photo book in the future and that many more are to come. But I'll speak for myself when I talk about the most difficult challenge. Personally, for me, was probably just answering the prompts in and of itself. They were pretty introspective things like, how would you portray yourself now? What are your future dreams? And during the time of COVID, I think that a lot of people might feel the same. It's just life kind of stopped for me. It was the first time that I was really stagnant. So when asking prompts like this, like, what are your dreams? How would you portray yourself now? Was a little difficult because I didn't really take the time out of all of COVID to really look at myself, I guess, because there never was a need. So now we're answering these really deep questions and trying to visually communicate them. So that was definitely the most difficult challenge for me. Valuable moment, the whole moment, all of them. But I think that it was mostly the introspectiveness that I gained. I guess one moment that I could share that really hit me was just the binary between my experiences and my parents' experiences. During one of our conversations, we were talking about deep water and how a lot of the cohort feels really safe in water, or I especially really looked to water as like a safe space. But then as we were talking, I realized that it's actually my parents, one of their worst experiences. So it was a very eye-opening binary of seeing something that was really comforting to me be something that was absolutely devastating to them, and just kind of seeing like the differences and also the privilege that I have here, but also kind of the burdens of the privilege, those sorts of things. That was the most valuable thing for me. I'll pass it on to Jen now.
I agree with Vivi. I really do hope that there is a second photo book in the future. I think it would be cool if like the cohort in the future can make another one, and then we can all kind of compare and share our stories together. The most difficult challenge to finish this project, I think, even with like our translators, I wish that I would have been able to write it in Vietnamese myself. I think that language is very powerful, and if I could have wrote it in Vietnamese, it would have felt very empowering. I think that was the most challenging part, to kind of accept or extend that help. And then the most valuable moment, I think, was kind of just seeing the overlap in all of our experiences, especially the kind of like the deep pain that we have in kind of recognizing the relationships we have with our parents and our family and our heritage, just kind of connecting on our disconnect with our heritage. I thought that was a very valuable moment. And yeah, I just think that was very valuable. And now I'll pass it to Monica.
Yeah, for sure. So do we plan on a second photo book? I hope so. I hope that I could share some of the design responsibilities with another person. That was definitely one of the challenges on my part. I felt a little bit of pressure to make sure everything was perfect, just because I am a bit of a perfectionist myself. So when there were like tiny errors in the book, it would drive me a little nuts. But in terms of like the most difficult challenge about this project was definitely similar to what Vivi said. It's like asking myself these questions I never asked myself before, kind of deep diving into who I am, my identity, like where do these thoughts come from, sort of learning and unlearning a lot of these processes that were going through my head. The most valuable moments were essentially every time we cried. And I want to say we probably teared up or cried a lot during this process. Just again, like sharing memories and moments with each other, feeling just so inspired. I remember during one of our guest speakers sessions, I couldn't help but have this overwhelming sense of like pride in who I am and the community I come from. So those were definitely very memorable to me.
Thank you all. I see that the questions are coming in fast and furious. Perhaps the next set of questions that we ask is kind of open to whoever wants to answer. If you felt like it's been answered, then we can keep moving along with the question. So Julie, hi Julie. Julie asked a question for both organizers and the cohort. As you prepare to release the book to the public, what do you want the life this book can have, or what do you want it to have? And how can you, how would you like it to move, and what dreams or aspirations do you have for the future through the book? So I think that's open to everyone. Looking at Julia and Michelle as well, if you wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, sure. I can, oh, no, go ahead, Monica.
No, go for it.
So I think just as co-facilitators, what we were hoping for the life of the book to have, one is something to have something tangible, as we've just been working completely virtually these past 2 years, having something physical and know like, wow, we actually did something together, and this is our photo book baby, as Monica is holding. And we're also hoping to donate it to local archives and collections and local libraries so that other folks can look back on this project. Not to be very cliche, but doing this project through these unprecedented times and being Asian women during a time of hypervisible anti-Asian hate, like this book to me is a statement of like, we're here. We're not going anywhere. Our stories are important and you need to see us and you need to hear us. So that's kind of where I think of the book, but I'll pass it back to Monica.
Oof, got me all emotional. But yeah, I'm kind of going off of that. My hopes, and I know the rest of the cohort's hopes, is to share this book and have people who read it and feel like they can relate and they feel seen, just because that's the experience that we had. So if some young folk pick up this book and think, wow, I want to have this sort of community, I want to share my stories, I think that would be the most rewarding outcome of this whole project, is to have impact on others who also want to share their stories, who also want to dive deep into their identities and their community. I think that would be the most special.
Okay. Next question, unless anyone else wants to. Okay. So the next question is around the prompts. So how did we arrive at these prompts? I don't know if Michelle wants to take it, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. I think when we were designing this project, it was like deep into the pandemic, and we were also hearing a lot of news about like violence and racism towards like seniors and women in our Asian communities across North America. So we wanted to reclaim our narratives. And so the questions that we asked really dived into like self-reflection of participants and also responding to the moments that we were all trying to navigate at that time. So with regard to the self-portrait questions, we wanted them to first like position themselves in this project and get a sense of who they are now. And then with the question at the end, it was just, to go full circle and to see whether this process of engaging photo voice made them think differently about their identities. And I won't talk about the other prompts because perhaps Linda and Julia might want to jump in, so pass on to them.
I think you covered it perfectly, Michelle. Thanks, T. I forgot to attribute to you for that question. And maybe just because time, I'm going to group the two questions from Jen and Tuyang. What advice do you have for someone who's curious about being more involved in their community and culture? And what advice do you have for others who want to do a similar photo voice project? So I think they complement each other perfectly. And maybe back to the cohort, if anyone wants to take those.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think like if you're, because I've also been kind of in that position of being curious and wanting to get more involved in the community. I think it's like connecting with other Vietnamese folks. I think majority of the folks that I've kind of reached out to have always like embraced me and wanted me to get involved with the community. So I would say, definitely you can even reach out to us, reach out to any Vietnamese organizations. How I ended up in this position actually was I wanted to connect with Vietnamese women, and I hadn't seen anything in Canada or Toronto where there was like a young Vietnamese group, second generation, and thankfully Linda, Michelle, and Julia got together and created this this community. And so I was lucky enough to join. So I would say keep an eye out, reach out to us, reach out to all of the communities of Vietnamese diaspora or Vietnamese communities in general.
Okay, I think that's a wrap on the Q&A. So I think we're getting to some fun part. Not that the whole thing wasn't fun, but.
Alrighty, so it's time for the raffle. Before we begin, just make sure you have your ticket numbers ready to claim your prize if you are the winner. But we also do have your names corresponding with ticket numbers. So if you're having trouble finding it, we got you. Okay, so we're gonna now show the different prizes. So the first prize is from our very own Monica Lay from her shop. And it consists of a selection of 2 8x10 or 1 16x20 art prints, plus a City of Toronto sticker sheet and a Stop Asian Hate sticker bundle. Our second raffle will be for a local Vietnamese coffee shop, a $25 gift card to Russell and Still Cafe. The third raffle will be for a copy of our photo book, plus a $60 membership to Toronto Real Asian Film Festival. And the fourth raffle will be for our BBG starter pack, which means Baby Girl starter pack. And it will have a Saigon drip kit, a copy of our photo book, false lashes, and a acrylic nail set.
All right, so let's see who's gonna win. Okay, we're gonna pull up our little raffle wheel. Okay, let's do it. It's not one of those. In the meantime, do we want to have Jen doing closing remarks? And then we'll announce. Just how does that sound?
Sure, we can do
Oh,
that.
wait, yeah.
Yeah. So on behalf of EPN, we want to thank you for being here with us for our project launch. We put a lot of heart into the book's design, photographs, our excerpts, and the video to truly convey our stories as Vietnamese diaspora women. And we feel so grateful to have you join us today. And we hope that wherever you are, you feel empowered to tell your stories too. We also want to send a special thanks to Artreach, Junto Studio, our book translators, Chris and Juan, and our interpreter, Vivian Liu, who I think she might be here as well, for your support and in the creation and launch of our Photo Voice project.
I also would love to mention that you can pre-order our book on our website. We will be linking that in the chat shortly, as well as you can visit empoweredfornew.com/beyond-the-lens. We will be doing a minimum recommended donation of $75 for the book and $100 if you are based in the US to cover shipping. All donations are welcome. We also understand that it's not accessible for everyone to purchase this book, so we are offering it digitally on our website as well for viewing. We want to share it with as many people as possible, but do know that the donations will go to, half of it will be to our EPN programming for future projects, and the other half will be going to, I believe sorry, let me double check here. We'll be going to Butterfly Asian and Migrant Sex Workers Support Network, as well as Golden Age Village for the Elderly. So please, we would love if you could support our project as well as these amazing organizations. And yeah, alrighty, so we got some numbers in for who is winning this raffle. All right, give me 1 second. Yay! Congrats everyone on whoever won the raffles. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Jen, do you have any final words?
No, those were my final words. Unless you have final words.
I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who's come out to support. It really means a lot. We've worked really hard. Jen said all of the words that I would have said otherwise. Thank you so much for your patience while we get through technical difficulties as well. It's been truly an honor. Vivi, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I think you guys wrapped it up pretty well. Thank you guys, everybody, for coming and for your sweet words. It really has kind of solidified the fact that we have made it community, and that's more heartwarming than anything.
Great. Thank you, everyone. All right, have a good night. We'll email you.